And later on, we'll also throw the light towards writing the conclusion. So just defining as a summary, it is simply shortened version of any of the text which you have written, speech
So
you have written.
so the presentation is not open to sir.
Please check now.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So ultimately, it is the summarized version, condensed version of whatever we have wrote in the form of text, what we spoke, or any other type of contents which provides the key idea about your work or the material. So finally, the purpose of summary is to condense the information, keeping the original content in mind so that it should be catchy, understandable, and must provide the meaningful information to the readers or the listeners, and they can interpret that summary as per their requirement. So in very simple words, we can say that summary is nothing. In a research paper, it is a brief, objective overview of the original work, and the purpose is the quick understanding with the steady core ideas so that the reader need not to move ahead with the whole of the paper. So what are the key characteristics involved in it? Summary must be conciseness. So summary should not be very elaborative. It should be brief enough so that it must contain the related point and the relevant information following the original content. This is what we have seen in the previous slide. So the summary should be concise, short, brief. Second feature regarding the summary, that they should be a very clear, means clarity should be there. Whatever the author wants to present should be very clearly included in the summary. The use of language must be in such a manner so that it is understandable, readable, and free from the grammatical error. So the summary should be written in the very clear manner. Third feature of summary writing, that is the objectivity. A summary should be written in an objective and impartial tone. That means without adding any personal biasness or opinion. So whatever the facts and figures are there in the work must be presented in the form of a summary. And this is what has been expected. You should not give your own insights which may differ the actual conclusions or the original results of the work. Extending to the same point, there should be an accuracy of your data, accuracy of the work, so that it must represent the main idea of the original content and avoid any misinterpretation or the distortion. That means it should avoid the expectations, avoid the results of the other authors in your work, representing that the same results you agree or accept. So there is a deviation. Those results, those summary is for the other authors. We need to look behind the perspective of writing their summary or those author summary. So you should always check it out that the summary or the conclusions must come out as from your requirement and not for the others. Next one, the next feature to the summary is the relevance. That means all the key elements, points must be included, and excluding the additional points or maybe not very important points, that should not be included. Just like in research paper writing, we learn that we have a footnote. What is the purpose of footnote? any of the things which is not very important in a text, in that case, this additional information can be considered in the form of a footnote. Similarly, while writing the summary, we should include only the relevant information because there is a limitation of the time, space, and the words. But at the same time, we should focus that those information must not be left behind, which is important to our work. The organization of the summary, it should be well organized and structured, presenting the information in a logical and easy to follow manner. And finally, citation of summary should give credit to the source by including appropriate citations or the references. So sometimes the researchers ask, and I may have a question that can we include citations in writing the summary? If required, yes, we can include, and if not so, we hope that this information is already be included in the various chapters earlier. So as and where required, you can include. There is no such restriction. If not, so it can be avoided. So inclusion of citation is not restricted in academic community. So what are the importance of writing the summary? Time is a constant for everyone. So summary provides a brief review of your work. By reading the summary, the reader can understand what exactly you want to convey. What was your topic? What were the objectives? How you have proceeded in the form of methodology? What are your findings, conclusions? They can be summarized into few paragraphs or maybe in the few pages. So rather than reading the entire thing, the summary should be condensed enough. As discussed in the previous slide, the summary should have a clear version. Clarity should be there, so that it should be easier for the readers to understand the complex idea or the topics. So while writing the summary, the use of language should be very simple. There should be clarity in the work. Avoid using detailed terminologies so that it may not create the interest of the reader. In order to avoid this, you can simply use the simple text and contents. The third point that is the retention. It helps readers to better retain, means to keep the information in their mind for their future work, so that it can be helpful in generating the ideas and the thoughts to them with your own work. Next is accessibility. Summaries must be easily accessible to the wide range of audience, so that as much this information has been spreaded, the more and more academic community, once they go through it, your work has been publicized, and at the second side, it is helpful in the development of the community. Just like you have invented something, and if you have gone through the patent through that invention, no doubt you will earn money, but your invention has been restricted to few only, those who are capable enough to pay the patents for it. But ultimately, why we have invited? We invited towards the sake of the community. So that is the objective, must be capable or should be kept in mind, and so that it should be benefited to the whole of the community. Next is comparison. Summaries can be used to compare and contrast different pieces of content, which helps reader to identify the similarities and dissimilarities between their thoughts, and it can be a good source for the further arguments. So summary can be considered as the part for the comparison with your work to the work supplied by the others. Then next importance is the review. Summary can be used to review the piece of content, helping readers to refresh their memory or key points or the ideas. So for review purpose, the summaries can be very helpful. Further, The summaries serve various purposes, including improving accessibility. Summaries may contain more accessible to wider audience. At the second side, it is helpful in aiding retention, just like what I have discussed, that whatever the thought and information has been kept in mind, it can be used in the later period of time. Comparison we have discussed, review we have discussed. Now, who are the users of this summary? The very first and foremost, it is very, very important and helpful to the academicians. Those who are in the research activity, rather than initially going with the whole of the page, we generally move in two directions. One is reading the abstract or the introduction part at a level. Secondly, the person goes with the conclusion. But in short, if you want to get little bit more information about that paper, so then there's those cases, the reading summaries are very, very beneficial. Even those who have already pursued PhD or those who are pursuing PhD, they do understand that the experts, after finishing off with your thesis, a summary has been prepared, maybe of 10, 15, 20 pages, and this summary is been sent to the experts for their review. Now, rather than going through whole of the thesis, the assessor determines, feels identified that should be he or she must go, or sorry, may go ahead for getting the review of the thesis. If the language or the clarity in writing the summary is not there, those acceptors, those reviewers may refuse to get the thesis of that particular author or the scholar. So there is a huge importance of writing the summary in the useful manner. And this is particularly meant for the academicians. For the professionals, these summaries helps them to get updated information in the condensed form, which maybe includes the information related to the industries and to determine the ongoing trends, or it is further helpful in presenting or preparing the meeting. It is just like you are presenting information related to your finance department or maybe related to the sales target to your boss or maybe the managing committee. They are not interested to go through whatever the pages you have written. They are only interested with the facts, figures, and that's all. So it is having the summary is having the professional use also. Thirdly, summaries are helpful to the marketers because they can summarize the complex information into the limited points, into the key points, just like which is helpful to increase the level of sales, to create the more meaningful advertisements for marketing the product, and at the third side, it is a good source for the customers' communications. What they want to feed to the customers can be helped with the summarizing of the work. The next user is the researcher. Just like an academician, summary is useful for the researcher. So by going to the summary, the reader can understand or the researchers can understand that this paper is helpful to them or not. If it is helpful, the researcher may go with the in-depth study. If summary is not written in the correct manner, the usefulness of the paper may not be helpful to the reader because summary was not written in the adequate manner. Next user is the media. Journalists may use the summaries to provide an overview of news stories or highlight key points of interest for their audience. So for media people, there is a news of summary. Personal. Individuals may use summaries to quickly and easily understand the main ideas of books. Even for individuals, it is helpful, because just like if we go through the novel, we have 2 or 3 pages summary. That summary provides the information about what the author, the novelist has written in that book. And second side, it is written in such a manner so it makes us curious about reading that book or the article. So there are the multiple uses of my writing the summary to the various people in the academic world. We have already discussed the advantages. More or less, they are the same with the importance. Now, what are the disadvantages of having the summaries? Number one, that is lack of detailed information. Now, if the summary has been written in such a manner that no meaningful information is available, or it is not eye-catchy, or not containing the relevant information, then in fact your paper may be eventually important, but due to improper writing in summary may distract, or the author may not, or the reader may not be interested to go through that paper. So by very nature are brief and may omit important details that are to be presented in the original content. Second is biasness. Summaries may be biased if the person creating the summary does not accurately represents the ideas or arguments presented in the original content. It is the same thing that the summary is written by the author on the basis of his or own perception rather than providing the true and fair view of the results. So there is a biased information, and this biased information sometimes may lack to the readers to go through those summaries. Misinterpretation of the data. Summaries may be misinterpreted if the person who is not having the capabilities to read or to understand what the author basically wants to convey. So in this case, a summary may lose its importance. Incomplete information. If the person writing the summary does not have enough understanding related to the content which must be included, the person may exclude some of the important or the key points, and is this such type of incomplete summaries are having of no use. So once again, the reader may not create an interest in reading this summary. Even the paper, the thesis work may be good enough, but the summary is not written in the adequate manner, so the approachability may be reduced. Violation of the copyright agreements. The summary is too similar to the original content. It may consider copyright infringement and may result in the legal consequences. So writing the summary is just like similar to the work you are doing in your research. And if this summary is being copied from someone else's statement, then it is not to be considered and may be followed with the legal consequences. So here in the above slides, we try to understand that what summary is all about, what is the need, importance, purpose, and advantages, followed by the disadvantages. The image may not be very clear. The sources of the image has been provided at the end. So it is the copyright image. Please give the adequate credit to the sources. Now, while writing the summary, which steps need to be provided or followed upon? So, number one thing, that starts with the citing of the summary. Read the passage twice or thrice carefully. You must have a blueprint what exactly you want to include in your summary. Just in thesis writing, when we are drafting a summary, we start with a topic, the nature, purpose, objective, why you have selected this topic, and why you have conducted research. In the later part, it can be in the chapterization form, maybe in the paragraph form. So in the later part, the chapter 2 we introduce in the form of introduction. Maybe it will be should be chapter 1. Now, all precise information related to that topic comes under introduction that will be defined. Then we move to the next part, that is literature review. Literature review, again, while writing the summary, it should be condensed, keeping in mind that all the key points of your topic are included in the summary. So try to incorporate each and everything. Use citations while writing the summary. So jot down the keywords and the main points. Now identify the main divisions. Just bifurcate your work as per the requirement, just like what I am talking upon. That you have divided the work into form of introduction, then literature review, then methodology, which model you have adopted, and so on, moving towards the findings and conclusions. Sum up the points and parts in your own words. Conclude the summary so that in your own words, so that it must provide the meaningful outcome. The first thing, the results must match with your thesis or the paper. And secondly, whatever is been mentioned in the form of summary, it should be so benefit for the society. Be objective and don't mix your views. So we have discussed that it should be very, very clear. Objective based summary should be there rather than adding your own views. We need to talk about the basis of facts and figures. Some facts may be considered wrong because of the perception, of your perception. You need to challenge, identify, but you can't say, you can't commit with the type 2 error because it will provide the complete false information to your work. Combine all the parts and check it again with the original text. So you have drafted the summary maybe in the form of chapterization, chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 literature review, 3 methodology, 4 final discussions, and all of the things. Now review them, combine them, and just check it out that are we in the accurate flow or not. So these are the key elements we need to memorize while drafting the summary. In case of any queries, we can discuss at the end of this presentation. So what are the key components to be included while writing the summary? It includes number 1, that is the introduction. Summary should also have the introductory part talking about the theme, purpose, nature, research questions about the study. Second part, a summary must include, that is the methodology. Although literature reviews already we have included to be included. Third is the methodology. A brief review about the methodology is been adopted in your work so that it provides an idea that which statistical tool you have applied and how we are going to proceed. So it can be in the condensed format. Then again, the third element discuss, that is the findings and results. So what are your outcomes? Must come in the form of findings and results. We should be very precautious while writing the summary. Again, your findings must match from your thesis work while writing the summary. It should not be like that. Your actual findings are somewhat very different, just like rather than what you are mentioning in summary. In case any deviation exists, rectify with whatsoever sources may be. The rectification may required in writing the thesis or it is required while writing the summary. And the summary must end with the conclusions and implications so that the author's conclusion and the broader significance or applications of the study is very, very helpful. So these are some of the key components towards writing the summary. Moving to the next part of our presentation, that is the conclusion. Again, the question may arise that what should be the size of summary? There is no such restriction, but it should not be too small not in the abstract format of 1 or 2 pages. Otherwise, it will be not going to cover up your thoughts in that abstract. Not too lengthy. It should not be considered itself as a thesis. Just like you have written 80 pages of thesis and 60 pages of summary, so it's better you can directly utilize the thesis rather than writing the summary. Now moving to the next element, that is conclusion. What is conclusion? Conclusion is the final decision or the judgment made after considering all the available evidences and arguments. Conclusion is different from summary. Summary includes each and every element in the elaborated form. But conclusions usually are in a paragraph format. It tried to compress the gist of your work into few sentences. So where the conclusions arrives at the end of your research work. Where the summary comes upon, usually summary has been prepared after concluding your research paper. So the writer restates the main thesis or research question, summarize the key findings and final remarks or the recommendations. So recommendations are also to be included while writing the conclusion. A conclusion can be in any format. It can be a written or the verbal communication, but it provides closer emphasis on the main message of the communication. A good conclusion should be concise, small, very clear in terms of language, understandable, punctuality, punctuation, all should be clear. And logical reasoning question in case if it has been required. So it should have leave a lasting impression or the impression amongst the audience or the reader to the long extent with the words what exactly the author tried to incorporate. So in order to write a strong conclusion, it is important to review the key points. Review the key points. What were the key points you have identified earlier? Of the discussions or the arguments and provide a final judgment or the opinion based on those evidences. So what we did after methodology, we have 2 chapters, that is the research findings outcomes. But ultimately conclusion help us to compare our introduction matched with the topic. Then if you have continued with the body part, whatever the things, literature review you have done, comparatively in few lines, okay, your thought process tallies with the literature reviewers, or you are having a different opinion. So these all things can be highlighted in the form of a conclusion. Now, important features of writing the conclusion. Restate the thesis or research question. The conclusion should remind the reader of the main point or objective of the paper. So the question may arise that is it necessary to write down the objectives once again in the conclusion? Answer remains to your choice. Conclusions can be in a single paragraph, maybe few paragraphs, maybe 2 paragraphs, or it can be in depth. So while writing the conclusion, you can subdivide of your work. It can be written on objective basis. Just like for conclusion 1 or the conclusion, there used to be an objective 1. And in conclusion, you have written 2 pages, 2.5 pages, 3 pages related to that particular objective. So this can also be utilized. Next one is summarize the key findings. The conclusion must include the briefly summarized and the most important points or result of the research or discussion. So what were the key elements to be included in your research must come in the conclusion part. Emphasize the significance, that is the importance of the research, why research has been required. Make final remarks or the recommendation. The conclusion may include suggestions for further research. That is the scope for further research. Or it may take recommendation for future action based on the findings on the research. So, by analyzing the previous 100 years of data, we can say that there is a downfall in the rainfall and there is a shift in the season. Rather than raining in the month of May and June in Indore, it has been shifted to a later period. Maybe July or probably at the end of the June, the rainfall starts, it lasts till December. So what is the reason behind it? So while we conducted the research, we have applied some statistical tool. After suitable statistical tool, we move on with the conclusion. Then final remark or recommendation, it includes the suggestion for further research. Ultimately, your work must be a window to the other people, other research scholars to get into. So you should write the conclusion in such a manner so that it must create an attraction to the other readers to read those papers. That is the same thing, leaving a lasting impression. Okay. While writing the conclusion, what are the important points must to be considered? Number one, summarize the main points. We are at the conclusion part, not with the summarization. So in conclusion, we should condense the key points to be included. As discussed earlier, summary can be elaborative. It can incorporate more number of pages, but conclusion should not be very, very long. In terms of research paper, it should be in the form of a single paragraph. In case of literature, in case of the review papers, there can be an extension to the conclusion. One of my scholars, conclusion was written on the basis of objective types. There were 3 or 4 important objectives must be to be included. So we have written the objective 1, conclusion 1, and we have elaborated the whole of the terminology. Then provides closure. Conclusions provide closure for the reader, signifying the end of the paper and leaving a lasting impression. It is just like a movie which ends without any conclusion. So what is the final outcome? It has been expected that part 2 or 3 or 4 is going to come. So in the similar ground, the conclusion must be written in such a manner so that it must pin on our head. Okay, now we are about to finish off with this particular contents. So the closer points must be there, closer elements must be there. Then reinforces the main message. Conclusion reinforces the main message or argument of the paper, reminding the reader of the importance of research or the discussion. There is a practical problem. Once we start reading the question, reading the research paper, we started with abstract, moved to the body part, and when we are at conclusion, we actually used to forget that what we are the things going to be included in our work. So considering those points, the summary and the conclusions must offer the final thoughts of recommendation. Then writing of the conclusion demonstrates clear thinking skills. Just like whatever you have identified, you have put that gist in your research paper. Now, once the research paper has been written by any of the articles, any of the author or the reader, it is going to trigger on their mind, okay, let us try to go through this textbook or maybe the journal so that we can write in the more efficient manner. So this is the importance. of writing the conclusion. Now, who are the users of conclusion? While the conclusion services serves several important uses in academic writing or researchers, this includes the summarizing of the key points. The conclusion summarizes the main points and findings of the paper, providing the concise overview of the reader. So what I told, conclusion can be written on the basis of objective wise, and this point indicates the same thing. The third informative use is providing a closure to the. Once we are at conclusion, it indicates that okay, now we are finishing off with this paper. So it provides a mental status, a mental point. Okay, now we need to finish off with our work. Then reinforcing the main message. Conclusions must include your initial thoughts so that it can be aligned, means conclusion can be aligned with the real outcomes or whatever you have been thought upon. So don't forget to just memorize or put upon that what was the main objective or the purpose of conducting this research. That must be included in your work. Further, it offers final thoughts or recommendations. The conclusion may offer final thoughts or recommendations for further research. Your work will be analyzed by the experts. If they think fit, they can accept, they can approve. So conclusion should be in such a manner so that it can be used as a recommendation for the future readers too. Next is demonstrating critical thinking skill. A well-written conclusion demonstrates critical thinking of the author by synthesizing the key points of the paper and offering a logical and decent conclusion. I hope this point has been clear, that a clear conclusion helps to reconcile, resynthesize the various points related to research. The structuring of the paper, the conclusion serve as a structural element of paper, providing a clear endpoint for the reader and signaling the end of the discussion or the argument. So suppose there is a debate going on, and whatsoever the results are there, it will be presented in the form of a note. Okay, this is the final verdict, this is the final result. Similarly, in terms of the conclusion, it is used in research. Once you are mentioning the word conclusion, the reader assumes that now we are going to finish off with our paper. Advantages. So what we have discussed, it provides a closer look towards the closing of the work, reinforce main argument, demonstrate critical thinking skills, it enhances the thinking habits of the people, help to structure and the provide a clear endpoint of the reader, and can provide various other assistance. So in spite of many advantages, conclusion also carries few disadvantages. The first one, it can be too formulaic or predictable if not written thoughtfully, leading to the lack of engagement from the reader. So again, if it is not written in the adequate manner, it may provide the misleading information, just like as in terms of summary. May not be necessarily for shorter papers or those with a more informal structure. So conclusions may not be for shorter papers, but still there should be few lines in conclusion. Sometimes feel repetitive or unnecessary key points of the paper, which is already been summarized effectively in the body of the text. Now see about the objective. So key objective of your paper has been initiated while writing the abstract. Then you have included some points in your introduction. And on the basis of these objectives, you have gone through the literature review. This objective comes in the next chapter as a form specifically to be followed by the hypothesis. Then these objectives are repeated in methodology. Okay, this is the objective and this methodology we are going to adopt. And further, these objectives are used in the discussion chapter. Finally, while writing the conclusion, again you need to include those objectives so that it can create a clear understanding between the objectives and the conclusion. So many of the times these objectives are used. So what is there? It is a repetitive information which may lose interest of the reader.
So 1 minute show the advantages, sir.
Yeah.
The previous slide, sir. Advantages, 1 second, sir.
May I move back to that slide?
Yes, sir. 1 second. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any question from your side? Most of the points are included in this purposes. That's why I only included 2 or 3 points.
Okay, sir.
Majorly.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
So as such, we all are acquainted with this concept that what is summary and what is conclusion. But my objective in this presentation is to make a comparative analysis so that we can better understand the need and importance, followed by what are the advantages and disadvantages about it. So this summary or conclusion, some conclusion particular I'm talking, that can be a challenging to write well, required careful consideration of evidence presented and the ability to offer a reasonable logical conclusion. So once again, we have a limited space. We should be written in such a manner so the gist of the whole of your paper must comes in the form of a conclusion. What should be the length of conclusion? Again, the same question arises. So as such, there is no restriction. In terms of writing a research paper, usually it should end in a paragraph. Usually. That may be 2 or 3 paragraphs in terms of a research paper. If you are in the thesis writing, it can be elaborative, little bit elaborative. You can write the conclusions on the basis of the objective, final verdicts in the conclusion part, and then end 3 to 4 lines with overall outcomes you have learned in your work. In fact, conclusions provides a means, a way for further researchers or research. So there may be few lines which must indicate that where we are ending, it can be the start for the other researchers. So this is also the one of the purpose of adequately writing the conclusions. So this is the way, mode, writing conclusions. Present the final words on the arguments, whatever the research questions arises, you apply certain tests, tools, techniques, and finally whatever your outcomes comes upon must be included in conclusions. Synthesizing the key points, same. It must correlate with your object title, objectives, findings, and conclusions. Communicating the implications of the study. Although we have a different section, the implication of the study towards the stakeholders. So don't get confused. You may include that portion as a part of conclusion, or you can strictly rigid to the last paragraph of your work to be considering as a conclusion. So doesn't matter. The implication for the further study is also can be considered in conclusion. Then demonstrating the importance of your findings. Conclusions provides the insight what are the real outcomes you have identified. Prepare a course of action suggesting for further study or solution to the problem. So there can be 2 things, just like ending up with a case study. These are the probable solutions to a study. In case study, there is no single sure short solution. You can't say that this is the only available solution. There can be various alternatives, and amongst us, we find one of the best alternatives. Similarly, conclusions can also provide the further action or the suggestions for the study. Next is to develop a sense of closure of your topic. So it should be helpful in determining, okay, now we are ending up with our work, and finally, all the information has been covered over there. More or less the same thing. It has been taken from Mr. Jack Caulfield on a paper which was been published on October 30, 2022. And he has identified these 5 steps for writing the conclusion. That is, restate the problem. What was the problem? Redefine. Summarize the paper. Discuss the implications of your work. Address the limitation of the study. And most importantly, your conclusions must line up with the introduction. So where you start with the introduction, it must end with the conclusion, and few lines of the introduction must be included in the conclusion. You know? So this is the structure of conclusion. It is basically divided into 3 parts. Thesis, restate the thesis using synonyms and remind the reader of your opinion. Summary of main idea, summarize the key point discussed in the main body. And recommendation, prediction, solution, what you actually need to do. So this can be one of the way for the conclusion to the work. So let us have one example. So this is one example which has been adopted while writing the conclusion. The question related to the work was CSR is an important consideration for the business. Do you agree? So the concluding remark comes and divided into 3 broad categories. That is thesis, summary, and recommendation. So see, in conclusion, I'm reading it out. In conclusion, this essay has discussed 3 key areas of CSR and argued that it is important consideration for larger companies. So what it says that this points below words are being adopted from the thesis, and it reminds the reader what you stands in, what actually were we looking in your work. And when business are environmental friendly, it supports local companies and provides positive working conditions, then evidence suggests that this improve profitability and encourage outside investments. So here they are talking about the results. These are the points which has been identified and taken up from the various paragraphs. So you can see this green portion is in the form of the summary. And in the red, it focuses on the further research or maybe the recommendation. So they says, the author says, it is therefore recommended that all the SMEs and larger companies invest in CSR to remain competitive and focus on the sustainability. So I hope it is understandable that considering these 3 elements, this is summary and future focus, is been incorporated in the form of conclusion. So whatever work you have done earlier, just classify your conclusion and try to figure it out that does it consider it includes in these 3 broader categories. If not so, then you can rewrite it. Then various online resources are available where you can get all of these things. Again, the short description that is the problem statement address in the paper. If you are not satisfied with your conclusion, what we to do? We can restate the problem statement address in the paper, summarize your arguments or finding, and suggest the key takeaways from your paper. So, how to write conclusion? What are the important phrases to be included? There is difference in opinion, but doesn't matter. This can be the sum of the key elements to be considered. So these are the phrases just for an idea to generation. It helps us to construct the paragraph. Like when you want to mention the word conclusion, you can include the word in conclusion, to conclude, to sum up. But I have gone through few researchers or few experts, they says that we should not use the word to conclude, so that because it provides the way for the further research. So it all depends upon your choice. In case of thesis writing, you can avoid the word conclusion. In case of research paper writing, you can use these words. The second phrase you can use, that is the recommendation or the suggestions. On the basis of the further study, the evidence suggested that, and you can carry over with the concluding part. Or you can use the word like therefore or hence, it is recommended that, and then you can give your justification of thought. Third example, the government should, on the basis of some recommendation made by the government, the sentence can start in this manner. The findings of the study suggest that. I hope many of us have used this word. The finding of the study suggests that. So this can be the second mode. The third phrase we can use, that is for prediction. And one prediction is that this continues, it could lead to. One prediction is that carry over with the sentence. If the same thing continues, it could lead to the necessity outcome. It could lead to some downfalls. Or an implication of this is to a possibility, and that you can carry over with the sentence. In case if you want to conclude the work with after providing some conclusion with a solid solutions, this can be the phrases you can use. There is therefore a definite need for the study. There are a number of important changes which need to be made in order to make the work more effective. Or another important practical implication is that, and you can carry over with your work. These are the few phrases you can adopt in your research paper writing. These are some do's and don'ts. So always keep your work in conclusion to be very, very short. Don't write too many paragraphs. Don't use big sentences. So I just told that 2 to 3 paragraphs is more than enough. Don't state the obvious in writing. Just I told you, the few authors says that don't use the word like in conclusion, in summary, and some suggest that it can be used. It all depends upon your own choice. Do you want to carry over these words or not? Do provide a brief overview of your paper and address whether or not if you've identified the answer of your research question. The objective of writing a paper is to identify the solution to the research question which comes to your mind. Even if you are unable to get any conclusion from your work, it can be kept in your conclusion and it can be a way for further research. Now, don't introduce new information. Stick to only the things which you have included in your research paper. Instead, your conclusion should restate your many points and provide closures. You may also offer suggestions on how your research can be expanded or improved. So it can be a good idea that you can provide the in thoughts that how we can make this work much better. Do mention the limitations of your study and their implications if not already addressed in the discussion chapter section of this paper. So it is suggestible that if you have not used the limitations and the implications of the study, it can be included in the conclusion part. It can include examples of limitations, includes sample size, composition, participant attrition, study duration, etc. So these are some of the do's and don'ts to be done. A way to simply compare, but not limited to these points only, between the summary and the conclusion. So summary refers to the concise statement or account of the key points of the text, research, or essay. As learned earlier, summary provides the meaningful information to your work in few pages in systematized manner so that it can provide a thought, a view to the thesis you have written. But what is conclusion? Conclusion is a section of the text of an essay or a book or a paper which serve as the final answer to the research questions. What is conclusion? It is a small paragraph where summary is an elaborated purpose. The purpose of summary is to outline the vital points of your work, whereas conclusion's objective is to simply provide the final outcomes, your verdicts, or a judgmental decision to your work. What does it do? Summary restates the main elements or attributes which have been discussed already, whereas conclusion synthesizes and wraps up the topic. What should be the length of the summary? As such, not restricted to, but somewhere around 5 to 15% of the original material and not more than 10% of the original material. Conclusion. But here I am different thought here. I think the conclusion should not be more than 5% to the whole of the work. Presents. Summary presents central ideas clearly and briefly, where the conclusions provides the implications, recommendations, findings, lessons to be learned from it. So these are the key points to be understand under the summary and conclusions. I hope that you have already gone through citations and referencing. So this I am not going to cover, but these are the things to be incorporated while you are writing the conclusion and summary. I just talked in the initial part of the slides that shall we mention citation? Yes, it can be there. Does the citations are required while writing the summary? Usually it is not been incorporated, but if you think that it is important to include, then you should include in it. And referencing, we know it is the last part of your work, which includes the more detailed information about the authors, whose information we have included in our work. These are some of the key ways from through the referencing styles can be adopted. So I hope you might be familiar with APA, Chicago, Harvard, MLA, etc. So I'm not talking much more about on this 2 and 2 slides. So this is almost from my side, and the session is over. There are the few links through which you can go through more information. And this is all from my side. The session is open for your doubts and your questions. Yes, please. We have 62 participants presently on the screen, I see. So any doubt related that how to write the summary and all these things?
No, sir. One point that you mentioned that we can put conclusion and objective points. So it can be roughly about how many objective points. Is there a limit for that?
No, ma'am. In case of if we are having all the objectives must be included in my work. Just let me update you. And one of my scholar recently has been awarded, and in that case, we have written conclusion on the basis of objectives. So it was having extended lines. Otherwise, normally conclusions might end in 1 or 2 pages, but it was extended because we need to have include objective. It went across more than 8 pages in conclusion.
Okay.
So we have a huge debate, but my scholar was intended to include in this way only. So then okay, let's proceed. No issues.
So that was for a thesis, a PhD, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
As there is no restriction, then mostly we need to focus upon the journal where you want to publish, because they have their own publication guidelines. So that is most important to go through that. And if they have already, they used to define the range. If we are going with the print publication, you do understand there are hardly 4 to 5 pages available. So in this case, elaborative summary or conclusion is not, summary is not required. In fact, in the elaborative conclusion is also not required. But if you are going with the e-journal, then you can move it to 40, 50 pages of the research papers.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the explanation, sir.
Yes. Any
Okay,
more
so
questions?
because no, sir, it was very insightful, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else is having any queries? I think you have one more session tomorrow, no? Or today is the last session for this workshop.
Today is the last, sir.
Today is the last session. So if you wish, you can share your learnings and your insights, your thoughts about the whole workshop. Anybody would like to say any suggestions so we can make the this workshops much better?
It was a wonderful workshop, sir, covering all the aspects for a research paper. So from starting from the beginning till the end, it was, I mean, as a research scholar, it was more insightful for me and a lot of points that I got from this FTP.
Ma'am, the real outcome comes only when you at least move ahead with and drafting one paper and getting it published.
Yeah, I've already drafted and published, sent for Scopus, sir. But for my thesis, this will be of great help.
Yes.
Knowing what to do and what not to do, because that was my first paper, and I had some doubts in that. So all that is getting cleared now in this through this workshop.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your suggestions.
Agrawal, sir.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Agrawal, sir.
Hello?
Agrawal, sir.
I'm not getting your voice, ma'am. Can you be a little bit louder?
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, at the outset, I sincerely apologize for joining late. So, with your permission, I would now like to introduce you to the participants. May I?
Nothing required, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, thank you so much, sir. And Dr. Moshmi Ratta, ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm there.
Hi, good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm very fine, ma'am.
Neha, ma'am, kindly introduce him, ma'am, so that we also know about him.
Yeah. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dr. Agrawal, sir, is an eminent academician and accounting professional in the field of finance, and he holds a PhD in management with research on IPO pricing. He has over 30 years of experience, including 7 years in corporate roles and 23 years in teaching. He currently serves as the director at Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Technology and Management in Indore, and he has been instrumental in introducing innovative teaching methodologies and actively contributes to the academic community as an executive member of Research Foundation of India and a member of the Circular Economy Club Boston, USA. And he is also a sought after resource person for MSME skill development programs and RFI research methodology workshops. So thank you so much, Agrawal sir, for insightful session. And now, with the great honor, I invite our esteemed valedictory session guest, Dr. Maushmi Datta ma'am. And as the coordinator of this program, it's my privilege to welcome her to deliver the concluding address and share her reflections. And thereby bringing this enriching 10 days faculty development program on advanced tools and techniques for research methodology to affordable use. Right.
Thank you, Neha, ma'am. It's good to know about sir after you told. His vast experience has taught us so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, ma'am.
Yes. Welcome. Sir.
Maushmi ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Maushmi ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, kindly conclude the session and share your insights with us.
Yeah. Actually, good evening, everyone. Good evening, the experts as well as the participants. Now, yesterday already I had my session, and I hope that it was useful one. So today I would like to add up some few sentences about research and how do you and the way you want to take up research. Research, I feel it's my own perception that research is the foundation upon which innovation and progress are built. So it is the systematic pursuit of knowledge. Whatever you have learned in this FDP, it was arranged very systematically, because unless and until you're systematic, research really does not hold any place, because research has the power. It is research only, in fact, which has the power to transform lives, shape policies, and drive economic growth. And it is the research again which informs about decision making. It is the research which can solve complex problems and even address global challenges. So I always feel I'm a researcher. So as researchers, we are a part of a noble tradition that seeks to advance knowledge and improve human conditions. And the impact of research on Kamaru, the impact of research extends far beyond. Actually, it is not restricted in laboratory or academic circles, but it influences policy decisions, it informs business strategies, and it shapes the public opinion. So as all of us continue to pursue research, let us remember the importance of rigor, integrity, and ethics. You already had a topic on ethics as well. So now ethics has become very important in research. Let us all strive for excellence, collaborate with others, and communicate our findings effectively. Let us also recognize the value of interdisciplinary research. We cannot be confined to a particular subject now. We need to think about interdisciplinary parts of the research as well. Ultimately, research is the journey of discovery. So, interdisciplinary nature is very, very important. Research is definitely taken up as the backbone of innovation and progress. As researchers, we embark on a journey of discovery, exploring the unknown, and pursuing boundaries. Our findings have the potential to transform life, as I said. So, in conclusion, I could like to say that let's continue to pursue research with passion, because unless and until really you have passion, you cannot be a good researcher. So you need to pursue your research with passion, with rigor, with dedication, striving to make a positive impact on society and leave a lasting legacy. At that outset, I would like to thank Research Foundation of India. I'd like to thank the co-sponsors of the Faculty Development Program. And also, I'd like to thank all the resource persons who were there for this week-long program, and also the participants, that you had a positive learning about research, and it is you only who can contribute to the society. Thank you very much. It was just lovely to be here with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mashnu ma'am. Thank you so much, Agrawal sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
So, with that, we formally conclude this enriching journey. And please stay connected with the Research Foundation of India for more intellectually stimulating and research focused sessions in the future. Until then, happy learning and thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Neha.